You're now tuned in to another edition of G Vision TV News. You know what I'm talking. Exclusive. Yeah.
And they wrote that up as the first civil rights law in the country in 1865. I don't hear anybody mention that. They don't talk about civil rights, about something social. Civil rights was never social. Civil rights was never getting along with somebody. Civil rights had nothing to do with who you can marry, where you live. Civil rights had nothing to do about who schools you can go to, who restaurants you can go into. That was nobody cared about that crap. It was about who owned and controlled. And you had to have minimally 40 acres, a mule, and $100. And Andrew Johnson, when he heard that in 1865 law, he jumped up immediately and vetoed it. And then the Congress came back in 1866 and ratified it again and read it again. And it came back to him again. Andrew Johnson, who replaced Abraham Lincoln, who had been assassinated, replaced him. He vetoed it again. But this time, the legislators said, we ain't going for that twice. We got a major problem. Black folk have to have resources. They have to practice economics to be competitive. And going back to the 13th Amendment, we passed the 13th Amendment. And the 13th Amendment says something very specific. Even today, nobody does in politics around the world, and in this country in particular. The 13th Amendment says that a black person must be treated in manners equal to any white person in America. In the same manners. And the 1865 Civil Rights Law picked up on that, says that every level of government, I don't care what's a federal, state, city, or county, every level of government is bound and obligated to use all necessary means and resources to lift the badges and incidents of slavery off the shoulders of black folk. That was the Civil Rights Law. Now, did anybody in here hear me say anything about social integration and civil rights being something about getting along with people? Now, let me go back and give it to you again. That is, let's go back. I'm going to go back to the 1500s, when I told you about capitalism. Capitalism means what? As I said to you, it means owning control of lands, tools, and resources, and using every people's labor to enrich yourselves. Now, go back up to the civil rights time again. That law says that black folk must have opportunities and resources. They denied it to them. And denied it. They didn't have anything to play with. They set they set 5 million black folk free and said, you get nothing. You got to go out there and root hog or die. We're not going to give you a damn thing. And we're going to release you from slavery, penniless, no jobs, no house, no car, no land, no money, no tools, no animals, no clothes, no religion, no history, no education, no nothing. And you got to compete. They knew you couldn't compete, you couldn't organize. And then before you can get a chance to organize, then they went right to the religious leaders and said, you can't be a device for bringing these people together. And so by 1817, that general time frame, they started picking ministers because blacks wanted to be exposed to religion. And they told they said, we will pick your religious leaders. But those religious leaders must use some catechisms that tell black folk straight up that you must be satisfied here on earth in your dilemma. That every black person, and had blacks repeating these catechisms all the time, what you ought to do is 3 things. You're to be hardworking and diligent and reliable, point 1. 2, that you will be respectful and protective and of white existence as imperial. And thirdly, that you will look for pie in the sky after death. And the ministers didn't have any choice. They had to go along that if they're going to do anything. That started about that came in. The evangelical movement started in America about 1795, 1796. So by 1818, they started putting these catechisms on black folks, saying you cannot organize, you cannot seek wealth and power. And so now when the Civil War ended, and that they set up a Freedmen Bureau that says black folk must organize. Let's put blacks into a protected class. They said put them into a protected class and give them some resources. That was called the Freedmen Bureau. And as soon as that went into existence for about a year and a half, and guess what? They did what's been going on ever since then. Immediately the power structure said, no, we can't have that. And they diluted and watered down the Freedmen's Bureau. And so that the whites, farmers and plantation owners and slave owners could get back all the land that they lost during the Civil War. They picked up almost every acre in the land. They got it back, even though the first terrorists in America, the first anti-block of people in America were Southern white Confederates. They tried to destroy the country. And now they're all in the South waving flags and Confederate flags and American flags, talking about how patriotic they are. They tried to destroy the country. And we're going to get to the conclusion, and when I get to my speech, I'm going to tie all this all together for you. Just stay with me. And so then at that point in time, they got all the land back. But they didn't give black folk any land, any resources. They could not practice capitalism. They could not practice economics. They didn't own and control anything. They had no land. And so when they kept trying to get it, the South says, yes, now you Northerners, y'all whipped us and beat us and gave us back all our plantations and all of our land, but the land is useless. The land is useless unless we can get some labor on it. They said, well, how are we going to do that? They said, go back to 1790, back to when I told you the immigration law, the nationalization law. The nationalization law says this, back in 1790, I'll go back to that in a second. It says that in this country, the American dream is any white person coming to America and getting free land and free labor. And land was useless. That's even though they gave out these millions and millions. We got millions like in the Appalachian society that was giving out free land on the other side of the Appalachian Mountains. They gave out 24 million. They got 24 million they got free land. Land didn't have any value. And so that's why Andrew Jackson says that a black slave, a black back, brings 90% of the value to the land. Land has no value unless you put a slave on it. And that's where the value came from. And so then when the South got back that land, and they want to start practicing collective economics and cooperative economics again in the South, they said we can't use this land because it has no value if I don't have some slaves. So what the South did, they cut a deal with the North. They cut a deal with all these whites up north in Detroit and all these places, cut a deal with them. Because you see, the North didn't want you to come, the Northern people whites didn't want blacks coming north. They want you to stay in the South. The Civil War wasn't fight to get you out of slavery. If you hear people, well, we freed the slaves. No, you didn't. The fight in the Civil War was over industrial resources, power and wealth. The North was fighting with the South so we can get the power. Because the North wanted to use their resources and go develop the West. But most of the power and wealth was in agriculture power. The biggest power at that point was called slave power. Slave power was controlling this nation. And the North wanted to break that. And once they broke it in the Civil War, the North had no more use for black folk. And so the South said, well, you have no more use for black folk, and we need them in the South. So the South and the North cut a deal. They said, you can have those blacks, keep them in the South as long as you want to, do whatever you want with them. And so then the South said, well, we go back to the 13th Amendment, take that little parenthetical clause, which says that slavery is forbidden unless a person has been duly convicted of a crime. And so then they passed what's called slave codes and peonage codes and re-enslaved black folk again. And they kept you enslaved again. That was called Jim Crow segregation. They kept you enslaved for another 100 years. And in the course of that time in 1870, when they did set those blacks free, they came up with a code of conduct for how the blacks were to behave. And they set up a code of ethics that for any blacks can run for office after slavery. The code of etiquette says that 3 things you cannot do if you if you get elected to a public office, appointed to a position, now that slavery is ended. You cannot bring any issues here talking about groupism. So, you see what I'm saying? You could not talk about collectivism. You couldn't talk about groupism. You couldn't talk about coming together. That was the first code of ethics that was passed on every black legislator. They elected something like about 7 or 8 blacks to Congress. And told them you cannot come into the institutions, political institutions, and talk about groupism. Because you see, power is based in the groups. The second thing they said, you cannot come here and talk about any black issues. And thirdly, they say you cannot come here and try to hold white folk accountable for what we've done to you now for over 360 years. And so that way you couldn't bring up any reparations. That was a code of ethics was put on black folk in 1870 with the first blacks who got elected following the end of the Reconstruction period. The Reconstruction period ran from 1865 to 1875. And in the course of that, the radical Republicans passed about 7 civil rights laws. Those civil rights laws were passed strictly for black folk. So I want y'all to get this in your head. Quit going around talking about all these fabricated minorities. We got to look out for poor people, gays, midgets, transsexuals, homosexuals, short people, tall people, people with hemorrhoids, peg leg, blind, one-eyed people. The whole point of the civil rights laws was to correct the Dred Scott decision. This Dred Scott decision says black people basically have no rights. It didn't say anything about women didn't have any rights, or gays didn't have any rights, or midgets didn't have any rights, or peg-leg people didn't have any rights, or those with hemorrhoids didn't have any rights. It says black people have no rights. But what they did at the end of the Civil War, they prostituted and corrupted the whole concept of civil rights. And they did it again in 1960, but I'm just going back to this point. They corrupted it so that black folk could not get any resources and you could not come together and practice anything. And now what you see all these, you see all this, like this harassment stuff. This is off my point. The harassment issues right now in our paper about, well, he harassed me, he touched me, he asked me out for a day, he asked me for my telephone, he told a dirty joke in front of me, I'm suing him, I'm a white woman. That stuff started in the 1840s. That's an issue between the white man and the white woman. It has nothing to do with black folk. Those are white issues. That's the feminizing stuff that started in the 1840s. That even Sojourner Truth got caught up in. She got caught up for messing around a while trying to fight for women's issues. And the only thing women were being deprived of was a right to vote. Because white women, and other than that, the right to vote, white women co-own, co-control, co-influenced, and inherited 100% of everything that the white man had. If she was so concerned about sexual harassment, why was she out there fighting for those black women for 360 years of being robbed, raped, enslaved, and working the fields all those centuries? So I want y'all to understand, when you start trying to mix gender issues with race, with color, with being black, you're trying to mix apples and oranges. It might be, sometimes it might be a difficult, a little inconvenient sometimes to be a woman, but it's cancerous being black. So watch those differences, okay? And don't mix those two. Because once you get in that issue, you're going back to you're dividing your people again. Stay together, whether you're black women and black men, you stay together as a group. You're talking about collective economics. You're talking about staying together as a group. Don't let anybody divide you under any circumstance. Okay, no, so after the Civil War, again, black folk got nothing out of it. Because they kept you in the South, and again, they Jim Crow and segregated you. Now, what's the next point? The religion failed you. Then the Constitution locked you into a lowest level of real-life monopoly game where everything is maldistributed. The American dream is not designed for you. You can't get anything out of the American dream. Because why? Because you are not an immigrant. The American dream is designed for immigrants. When you hear about on TV talking about this is the American dream and American values, they're not talking about you. Every day on the Fox channel, NBC, whatever it is, they talk about the American dream and about everybody and about American values. American values do not include black folk except as property and as consumers to be used and abused in any way anybody felt. That's why you still got this thing about Black Lives Matter walking in the streets. You still walk in the street talking about Black Lives Matter. Matter to whom? Well, let me jump to the end because right now I had a hope. I didn't get to the real meat of what I want to tell y'all, but I got to wrap this up.
Let him speak. Watch out now.
He said they have me back, so I didn't get a chance. That was a warm up. I didn't get a chance to get the stuff I want to tell y'all about.
Oh wow.
They're not that silly. They send their money with their own people, and I don't fight them. I got some white relatives. I know, and they tell me the same thing. This y'all just stuck on stupid. You don't play the game to win. You're not practicing capitalism. You don't own any land. You got Detroit running all these vacant lots. I guarantee you right now they plan on making Detroit the next biggest Chinatown outside of China, and they're gonna subordinate the hell out of you. And see, when I was here with Joanne, I tried to build a business district for you right over here off of Livernois and in that area. I had almost 40 acres over there. I'm gonna build you a black business district. I had something like about 20 major factories, black factories gonna move here, give you jobs. I had about 16 major retailers gonna move in there, so you can buy and shop with your own people. But again, you had people on the city council, other than the four who I love, like Joanne and Kenyatta and a few other Rose, that tried to support it. They said, well, Dr. Anderson, if you do something only for black folk, that's racist. Now we admit in Detroit, we got a Chinatown, a Frenchtown, a Germantown, Poletown, Hockeytown, Corktown, But if you build something for black town, that's racist.
Right.
and you had black civil rights leaders. That sure is right. I mean, it is sad. And so, and you got to learn to play the game. Get your money and resources, and build your own business, and buy from your own people, and even and support your own people. And do not elect any politician who will not support you. The primary purpose. I know y'all applaud. Don't applaud. I ain't got that much time. I have about 2 minutes. But see, the primary, and you build those businesses, build them based on your competitive advantage, your cultural advantages. You dominate in politics and economics wherever you dominate in population. You were 92% of the population. You should have been having 92% of the business in this city.
Right.
When I looked around the city, I guess what I found out what? Arabs have 90% of the business in the city. They all at grocery stores, soda stores, party stores, liquor stores, discount stores. You own nothing. And the Indians own all the Dunkin' Donuts and the 7-Elevens, and Koreans owning the hair shops, nail shops, wig shops. You own nothing. And learn how to become producers rather than consumers. And you need everything that everybody else needs. Start producing and selling it to your own people. Spend your money with your own people. Don't worry about whether or not you love so and so. I don't like him because I don't like his mama. Anything. Just stay together.
Stop it.
Now, in conclusion, because they want me to sit down and shut up, I got to run now. This is the last thing.
Yeah, you can speak.
Okay. I got to rip that. Now, here's the key. I'm going to talk to y'all for another 20 minutes. Here's the key. If you want to survive and practice group economics, cooperative economics, collective economics, you got to remember this. Your key is your exceptionality.
That's right. All right.
And I've been trying to tell black folks this for 40 years, all my years in government. When I was over the state of education system for 47 years, when I was with presidents and governors and preaching around, I said, you got to understand your exceptionality. Not the way you hear it about today. I got a lot of blacks I know right now, friends in Hollywood and movie stars. They think exceptionality for black folk mean, well, we got a genius and a talent for dancing. We can outdance anybody. We can outsing anybody. We can outrun anybody with a damn ball. That's exceptionality, but that's not exceptionality I'm talking about. My exceptionality for blacks is this. You are exceptional people. You are special people. When you hear people like Obama talking about this is an exceptional nation because we're a land of democracy, because we have open elections, because we have open immigration policy. That's all BS. You say, well, and he's demanding special recognition for America and exception for America and glorification of America. Well, if that's the case, black folk are exceptional. I want you to say we are exceptional people. For every time you talk, say we are exceptional people from now on. We are special people. And therefore, we demand, don't ask for anything else, don't beg anymore. You demand for everything from now on, this point on. You demand that we expect recognition, appreciation, and reparations for our people. You demand it. Don't beg. No more of this march to the street talking about Black Lives Matter. Nobody give a damn about you, man. You go get the money. And don't let anybody give you anything that's ceremonious, that is symbolic. If you can't count it, feel it, touch it, and take it to the bank, tell them you don't want it. And as exceptional people, here's why you're exceptional people. You are the only people, this is the closing. You're the only people in this country and in the world has been treated and maltreated in a certain way. Nobody in this country has been treated like you. You're the only people who were brought here involuntarily. You're the only people that came in this country as the oldest people on the earth. You're the only people that were denied the right to participate in government. You're the only people that were denied the rights and fruits of your labor. You're the only people that denied a religion. You're the only people that denied an education. You're the only people that denied a right to vote. You're the only people that denied anything to have a family and unity. You're the only people that denied to have a right to own religion and culture. And same token, that since 99% of all black people in America were here and the direct descendants of slaves, you're the oldest people in America. Nobody else can outclaim you as being the oldest people in America. And more importantly, you are the most patriotic people in America. You're the only people. You're the only people in this nation. I don't care talking about all the Europeans or Asians or Arabs or Mexicans, Hispanics or Indians, anybody else. You're the only people that's fought in every war with this country. Nobody else can make that claim but you. You're the only people that fought in every war to defend this country and whose mother country has never gone to war against it. We have fought Germans, Irish, Cubans, Puerto Ricans, Mexicans, Indians, Koreans, Russians, French, German. We fought everybody on earth, but you never fought black folk. And yet it's unreasonable and it is absolutely insulting for them to be keeping black folk on the bottom as the most exceptional people on this earth, most exceptional people on this country. You are the people that built this country. Your body, your labor,
Yes.
your labor was the engines that drove the economic development of this country. When you hear all these politicians and civil rights leaders talking about, we all are equal. No, you're not. The biggest lie ever told, that everybody's contributed equally to the development of this nation. They did not contribute. The people that built this nation, that's in here now, 99% of them weren't even here when the black folk were building this nation. Yep. You are special people. Do not let them put you in these equal bags. Do not let them put you in these bags called minorities and poor folk and diversity and multicultural and handicapped and poor. You are special people. If they can't do anything else, you demand, say, if you're not going to accept us and recognize us, appreciate us, and reparate us, put us into a protected class. I want y'all to be put into protected class. White women have always been in the protected class, and American Indians are in the protected class. Black folks should be put into protected class. It do not continue to make black folk this nation's only permanent playing minority in a society where the majority will win and the minority will lose. You should demand to be put into protected class and proclaim that you're exceptional people. Do not let them equalize you with any other groups. No gays, no Hispanics, nobody else. You are special, and I love you.
You're now tuned in to another edition of G Vision TV News. You know what I'm talking. Exclusive. Yeah.